I'm Ted from Everything Attachments, and we're here with Peanut. Everybody knows Peanut. We're here at Peanut's family's piece of property. His father's Daryl. You might know Rick if you've called into the office. That's his other brother. We've been tight families for a long time. This is on about a 50-acre field here that's near the creek. I'm in Catawba County. It's August 8th, 2013. 2 weeks ago Saturday, we had 13 inches of rain in just a few hours. Peanut and I have both seen this field covered a little bit with water, but they had record, even Granny that lives also here on the home site, which isn't here with us anymore, she knows where the water used to come up to and told us many times, and the water came up, an extra 50 feet or more than... So this is a bridge that's been here since I was a kid. This is Highway 10. This whole bridge was cut off this is the first day it was opened yesterday. All of this rock that wasn't here, and Peanut and I used to be able to drive vehicles between the end of the bridge, and the whole end got blown out, and all the trees we're getting ready to show you have come out from in here and on up through here. Nate, pan on around here and get to see the destruction that we had here. You may have seen it on the national news. It was my friends called me from all over and saw it on the national news that Catawba County and some counties around us had experienced this type of flooding, and even a few people were killed that were camping that were way away from some of our rivers. But simply, this is more than anyone has ever seen here that's still living, and even before that we know of. Daryl lost a lot of his pasture over here. This used to be solid all the way out to here. Where my vehicle's parked out there next to Daryl's tractor is Peanut's golf green, which is basically gone and covered up with sand. Peanut's a scratch golfer that's self-taught, and we're going to take our extreme duty landscaping rake, and we're going to have all kinds of different conditions here because we're able to kind of show what it does in sand that wouldn't normally be here, and that's river sand that's washed out of the creek here. We've got rocks, roots, a little bit of everything. It looks to me like we're going to get on some roots that are still connected on both ends that were feet under the ground that have been uncovered, so they're still connected. So we're just going to see how much abuse. We're going to hook some of this heavy stuff. We're going to see how much abuse that this rake can take and the quality of tines we got. You may see us swat a little bit. There's a lot of bugs out here that aren't normally here with all this sand and moisture that's been going on out here. But we're going to try to make a day of it out here and see that we can show you all the different things that these landscaping rakes are capable of doing with and without the gauge wheels. Okay, so we're here with Peanut's father's tractor. This is a tractor that in 1983, I was 18 years old. My father and I traded his family for a piece of land that's over where my White House is that you may have seen some of the other videos. And this is a typical example of a tractor that can be as low as 28 horsepower on the PTO, 32 engine horsepower. This was a great tractor when it was built for the size, how well you're able to look off the back of this tractor for landscaping and using a product like this. I wish tractors would have stayed a little more simpler, especially on the operator's platform like this. But this was one of the last ones of the dry brake tractors for Ford after the 2000 and 3600. Then they moved to a wet brake axle and really made it wide and heavier, and it wasn't really as balanced, especially with this lower horsepower. But this is a good example. When we build our attachments to be extreme duty and we say they're for a compact tractor, compact tractors are going up well into the 60 horsepower range now. And really, horsepower is one factor in depending on what you're using. But this tractor with only 32 horsepower is still a 5,000-pound tractor. So regardless of how much horsepower it has the push power of a 5,000-pound tractor. You simply use a lower gear. So that's why I try to differentiate the difference in our attachments. If it's for a compact tractor, not really worried about the horsepower, more worried about the weight. Just like a John Deere 110, it's kind of considered a compact, but it breaks every rule. It's a super heavy beast of a little tractor. So when you're sizing your implements right, size it more for the weight and the size of your machine than you do for the horsepower. And we can help you with that at Everything Attachments. We always pretty much know every model of tractor, kind of what they weigh, and can make our best recommendation. Because regardless of how much horsepower it has, for instance, a Kubota MX-51, tons of horsepower, not much weight, spins the tires really good. Not a bad tractor, but it's just a compact, lightweight tractor. This tractor, as has half the horsepower and will way outpull an MX-51, even if it's two-wheel drive with good tires in the right condition. So that's something that has to be always kept in mind with attachments when you're sizing it right. And if you're not experienced with it, Everything Attachments has the experience, and we're here to help you. So we're going to go over some of the features of this landscape rake, and we're going to probably bend some tines before it's over, because we're definitely going to do some things that you shouldn't do. We've put the hook on here to make it easier for us to get loaded and so forth, and for you later, so we don't have to damage the paint on it. All the tines on this are Italian tines. They're not Chinese. They're not Indian. It's the highest quality of tine I can get, because what you want is a tine that doesn't have to have the girdle behind here, making it rigid, because then it's going to operate more like a straight blade. You want your tines to work fully spring-loaded. So to this point right here, that's flat. And then it has a 3-degree bend, letting it have some up room and some down room to let these fingers work, because if they don't work, they're simply just going to drag dirt like a straight blade. Now, we've got a mix here of what kind of looks like sand, but there's a lot of red clay mixed in with it, so it may pull up more than we think. We don't really know what's under this. There's more than a foot of sand here that's never been here in the pasture. There can be anything from sticks, rocks, whatever in this, but it's not going to work quite like sand, and it's not going to work quite like dirt. I can tell that already. We do have gauge wheels here with us, and we will put the gauge wheels on. Then this is our brand newest design, our version 3. We're probably going to move this top link up to this slotted lot, which is going to let it work more like a grater off of the rear pins here and the wheels. So the top link's not affected as the tractor moves. It's going to keep it from dipping and digging in. On this model here, we've added the Category 1 and Category 2 step pin. We're slowly converting all of our attachments to that. It is quick attach acceptable, and will come with the pin here ready for the slide when you get it. Now, this particular tractor does have hydraulic top link and side link on it. Daryl and I are really close, and I hooked him up with this 15 years ago. And once you get used to that, I try not to use that on my tractor videos, because most people don't have it. Once you have this, you get really spoiled with it. So it's kind of it's a great thing if you do have it. If you don't, all these adjustments are still available to you. You just have to do it manually. So we do have the 8 positions in the rear, 8 positions in the front to rotate this around. So it will completely rotate around while it's on the tractor. This is an 8-foot rake. We just rotated it without any problem, except for where his top link is. It sticks about that far below the lift arms, and we did hit there, but that wouldn't normally be there. So we're going to put Peanut on the tractor, which Daryl, his father, is one of the most experienced machinery operators I know. He worked at our county field here for about 30 or 50 years, fully retired, and he's an expert with box blades and root rakes, scrape blades, and that's where Peanut learned from, and that's pretty much where I learned from. We've both played on this stuff all our lives. So we're going to give it a shot, see what we've got underneath here, because we don't have a clue. This field has never been like this. There are full-size oak trees, 50 to 100 years old, that are 500 feet away from where they were originally, and we're just going to give it a run and see what we've got. We're in the blind just like you would be if you'd had a natural disaster around you. So right now we're just going to kind of sift through the sand, see what comes up. Once we find out what's going to come up, we'll angle it probably and see if we can make a row of trash. And if we don't find what we want here, we'll go somewhere else. But see, it's letting the sand come through. It's piling up pretty high, but it's still sifting through it, and that's what you want, and it's going to pull the trash out of it. So now that he's just trying to take the trash down to that hole where we can reverse it later and push it back into the creek bed there where it's missing. He's down to where he doesn't have anything but pure grass and a few little sticks there. So it sifted through better than we thought it would, because we're just still not sure. He's going to go straight down. He's just going to stay on the sand and see kind of what we end up with here. And he's still, you can see some of the grass, which is a foot long, still coming back up through here. That's still connected. But as a good rake does, it's not building up like a scrape blade. It's letting it filter through there, and that's what you want. And that's all about having those tines free and loose and letting them use their spring action. The one thing you don't want to do with the landscape rake, and that rake is protected because it does have a brace under the tines, but you don't want to back up while you've got the tines down. You can always turn the tines around with the whole rake, but don't back up with them in their forwards position. So if you had a beach, this would really leave a nice finish on it because it's got enough sand in it to kind of tell that. I've sold a lot of these to pull the seaweed out and so forth around beach areas and in the Keys. So we're not really running into the big rocks or any roots right now, but we're going to. So we're just going to go over this a couple more times, see if we can get down a little lower. Peanut wants to see if we can get to the grass actually, just for his father's, because his father, after we're done with this will be his father's new rake. We're going to give it to him, and he's going to stay out here, probably work for the next couple of days trying to clean this mess up. So every layer is kind of a different color here, going from red to more of a sand to whatever. And we'll come back here in a day after his father's worked all day and just take you a picture and let you see what it ended up, what he was able to do with this. But the good thing that we're finding out is with the loose tines, it's not letting it build up like a scrape blade, and that's good. And really, to get this sand, and Peanut's trying to get down to the grass right now because he'd like to see where the pasture is, but a scrape blade or a box blade would really be probably the first thing to start with to actually move the material. And then go over it with a rake to get the fine stuff out of the grass. Now with it this wet, I'm not sure, but it should comb through the grass without really pulling up the grass. And anything it's pulling up is probably just deposited here from up the river. So then once you get like your piles of debris, he'll go over that and sift back through it and make it easier and quicker. He got down to a few rocks there, and we'll pull those out of the way. Oh yeah. And really, he's, depending on what you're doing, he's probably at full speed of what you should be doing. That, or if you can always slow down or speed up to adjust how much it's filtering through and what it's doing. And you can also change the top link angle a little bit if you want more bite or less bite. Okay, so now we're out in the middle of this field where it used to be nothing but grass, and you can see the different ridges here. It looks just like ocean waves where the water's washed through here. And we're going to do a little, the landscaping rake should help level up a little bit in here. And then with time, what Daryl will do, Peanut's father, is just keep on raking this until he gets down to the grass where it can come back through as the pasture. Now what he'll end up doing with all these tons of sand at the end, I don't know, because it's going to be a lot of it. So it's going to level it out and fill in the gaps similar to what a box blade or scrape blade would do, even though that's not exactly what it's meant for, but because we're in sand, it's going to do a good job of that. But it's going over those ridges that are almost a foot high in between them, and it's smoothing out really well. I would say you almost need gauge wheels to do that well, but it's doing really good in this sand. Normally a landscaping rake would be used to clean up after you have landscaped a lot or had a dozer clean it off and you've just got a lot of roots and limbs, things like that. But we're kind of getting a dual purpose out of this because a lot of people have beaches and sandy area they want to clean up also. Now, he's still got some hills in that, and that's where the landscaping wheels on there would really help to keep it level, more like a motor grader. But it has leveled out. Everything that was washboarded, as it is right here with a big hole, it's now leveled out across here really nice. I believe Daryl can keep riding over this till he gets some of this natural grass coming up through here where he can gain his pasture back. And then there's a half an acre gone next to the creek that I guess will just be gone forever. So, and one of the bigger differences too between a farm tractor, and this will be a small farm tractor versus a compact, it's going to have a much larger cubic inch engine, a lot more torque, a lot more weight, and just built differently than a compact lightweight tractor. And there's a little bit of asphalt in here, there's a little bit of granite rock, a little bit of everything. And he's kind of riding a ridge, but after a couple of passes he would get that. It's a little more difficult to get it smooth with an 8-foot rake when you're having to ride a ridge like that. But he's got enough pasture here that he's going to have that 8-footer. So on the first pass, he's getting the sand off of it and getting some of the debris, and with another pass, he's going to get all this rock out of it. Instead. Okay. So I can see a lot of the rock sticking in the back of the tines there, and it's just a process of making a few passes to get all of this like you would want it. So he'll filter that out to a place, and then once he makes a good row of trash, then he'll respread that out to further separate the trash and be able to clean this mess up. Okay, so at Everything Attachments, we sell a whole lot of different things, and one of them is a root rake meant to get roots and stuff out of the ground after excavation and stuff. To give you an idea of the root system of a tree, which you'd normally never be able to see cleanly like this, you know, you've got a lot of trees here, nothing really huge, and you can still see the root structure, which is still going up under this bank for more than 30 feet. So 30 feet away from a small tree, you've still got 4 to 6 inch roots that are running under here. Definitely when they're attached on both ends like this, probably this tractor won't even pull them out with a chain. So there's no point in trying that with the landscape rake. You can see these big hunks of concrete that are all here. All of this was washed out into the pasture, and I didn't know this till now, but Daryl had already come out here with a box blade and pushed some of this junk back into here. This whole field was completely covered with debris. But just giving you an idea of the root structure of these trees and what you're up against when you're trying to get these things out. I mean, there are just so many roots that coming out of these trees that, you know, some people, they just don't have enough tractor to handle this, just like we don't today. And we're not going to take these roots out because they need to stay here. Most likely, if these aren't covered up pretty quick, all these trees are going to die. So I don't know exactly what they'll do with that, but there's debris and roots and everything everywhere in here that I've never seen before. Peanut and I have played on this river a lot, and we've even had vehicles down in it driving it. But this is a bad disaster that happened in Catawba County. If the storm didn't wash these out, I'm not even sure we can pull them out. If nothing else, this may be a good test for the tines. We would normally be pushing this back in, but we're just going to try to take it out for something to do, and then we'll push it back in later with the rake turned around backwards. Now he's over a 2-inch root, but it withstood this storm. It's going to do something between break a tine and pull it out. I don't know. So far we hadn't broken anything. I see a few of them flexing a lot. But every now and then, if you break a tine, you shouldn't have an experience with bad tines, and I've had that with another company. But it's still common to bend or break a tine every now and then, and really they should bend instead of breaking, because if they break, they were too hard, and that's what a lot of the Chinese and Indian tines will do. So the thing to do is work with patience, work slow, especially when you've got a 5,000-pound tractor. Patience goes a long way, and you just have to redo less later. So he's tilting his top link down there simply just to get it lower and get a different angle on it. And he's got a full head of stuff there. And it's just breaking off the limbs and roots. It hasn't messed anything up yet. This is probably your most aggravating type of stuff to get caught in the tines and stuff like that. There's nothing you can really do about it except clear it off every now and then or back up a little bit with them slightly on the ground. But if you were in the opposite direction, now we're going to push this back in, but if you were truly trying to clean this off, that's about as much as you're going to get done with a tool like this. It's going to do a good job. So going over a bank like that full of roots is probably the last thing that most manufacturers would want you doing with a root rake, but it seems to be holding up well. As you can tell, he's spinning a little bit with that tractor, but it's a larger tractor. The tires are half worn, but he's still getting a good pull at it. And with that extreme duty rake, which is rated up to 75 horsepower, it's going to take about anything the tractor will put out. A lot of 75 horsepower tractors now are no heavier than that one, only being 32. So he's just got a wad of crap there, and if you wanted to filter that out, he would simply drag it along in a row and let some more of that sand filter out, end up with a nice pile of roots to the side. Because there's only about an inch of spacing between these tines. Depending on what you're doing, for certain things you can remove every other tine if you need it to filter through larger stuff or not get caught up in small stuff, just depending on what you're doing and how large your job is.